Have you ever realized how a single chapter of the Bible can contain principles powerful enough to transform entire destinies? Proverbs 13 is one of those hidden treasures. It is not just a collection of wise sayings, but a true spiritual and practical map for those who want to win in life without losing their way. Each verse works like a key that unlocks doors of understanding, showing that our daily choices determine the future we will have. This chapter places us before strong contrasts: the righteous and the wicked, diligence and laziness, truth and lies, fidelity and infidelity. Each duality forces us to reflect on which side we are choosing to live. The Bible does not present life as neutral. It makes it clear that there are two paths, and each leads to a completely different destiny. Ignoring this call is living blindly in the midst of darkness. Proverbs 13 confronts us with questions that stir the heart. Have we listened to instruction or despised counsel? Have our words produced life or destruction? Are we only wishing or truly working to achieve our dreams? These questions are not theoretical, but practical. They shape relationships, finances, spirituality, and even the way we view eternity. More than teaching, this chapter warns us. It shows that the lazy man desires but achieves nothing, that lies always lead to shame, that pride generates conflict, while humility opens the way to wisdom. These are hard truths, but necessary because they function as mirrors. When we look at them, we are challenged to change not tomorrow, but today. The time for transformation begins now, and the most impactful part is that Proverbs 13 does not only talk about problems, but also about rewards. It reveals that the light of the righteous shines brighter, that fulfilled hope is like a tree of life, that God's word brings security, and that the path of faithfulness gains favor. Each verse is a promise disguised as a principle. Whoever learns to apply them experiences real and lasting results. This introduction is an invitation for you to dive into the heart of this chapter. We are not facing ordinary words, but divine counsel that has crossed generations and remains current. What you will hear is not just ancient wisdom, it is living direction for today's challenges. Whether in your personal life, your career, or your faith, Proverbs 13 has answers you need to know. Get ready, because in the next few minutes, we will go through 15 impactful topics that reveal the secret to living with wisdom, building a solid future, and avoiding traps that destroy lives. Each lesson is like a seed ready to bear fruit in your heart. The only question is, are you willing to listen and put it into practice? If so, this chapter may become a turning point in your story. Before we continue, if you like our videos and feel that they have blessed your life, like and comment, even if it's just an amen. This makes a huge difference in getting this content to more people and impacting lives. If you are not subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share with your loved ones. This way, YouTube will get to know you better and suggest even more videos like this to help you on your faith journey. Help to disseminate this message of faith and hope. Each like, comment, and share strengthens this work, which we do with great love. To edify your life, together we can reach even more hearts. Continuing. From the very first verses of Proverbs 13, we learn that our attitude toward correction determines the course of life. The wise son listens to his father's instruction, while the scoffer rejects it. This simple act of listening or despising opens two completely different roads, one that leads to honor and the other to shame. Many times we do not realize that the way we respond to warnings silently shapes our destiny. Wisdom is like a seed. Those who plant it early reap lasting fruit. But those who close their ears end up harvesting pain. Here lies a powerful key: the willingness to learn. Wisdom is not acquired merely through the accumulation of years, but through humility to accept instruction. Some young people become mature because they are open to counsel, while some adults remain childish because they refuse to listen. The difference lies in a heart willing to learn. This contrast is striking. One builds bridges to the future, the other digs pits to fall into. When Scripture shows us this picture, it is warning us of the power of daily choices. The future is not decided all at once. It is woven thread by thread, counsel after counsel. The wise son represents the one who understands that life is a field of continuous learning. He knows that he will not always be right, and that listening to the experienced is a shortcut to avoid unnecessary mistakes. The scoffer, on the other hand, acts arrogantly and closes the doors of his own growth. This duality is a mirror for each of us. On which side do we stand? The one who accepts correction enriches life, while the one who despises it draws poverty. Of understanding, the text invites us to reflect deeply on this. Notice how the Bible places the instruction of the Father as a symbol of an inheritance of wisdom. It is not only about listening to one's biological father, but about respecting the principles and advice of those who came before us. This reverence for the experience of others is what paves the way for building something solid. In contrast, the scoffer mocks, despises, and closes his ears, revealing that pride is the root of foolishness. The result? A future corroded by wrong choices. Wisdom, therefore, is not just a gift, but an attitude. It is born from the discipline of inclining the ears and recognizing that we do not know everything. This openness to learn generates real transformation, because each correction received is another stone in the construction of character. Denying this is like trying to walk a dark road without light. What seems like freedom ends up becoming disorientation. Instruction guides us, while disdain destroys us. This principle carries enormous practical power in every area: family, finances, spirituality, relationships. Those willing to listen will always be a step ahead. How many falls could have been avoided if we had heeded the counsel we received? How many tears could have been spared if we had accepted the warnings of those who love us? Wisdom is always preventive, while foolishness is always corrective and usually painful. The first verse of Proverbs 13 already sets the pattern for the whole chapter. The future is the fruit of today's choices. Accepting instruction is sowing honor. Rejecting it is sowing ruin. This truth does not change with time or culture. It is a universal principle. And you, which road are you building? Are you allowing wisdom to shape your future, or are you closing your ears to it? This is the reflection that opens the way for the lessons that follow. Words are seeds cast into the soil of the heart and of the world. Proverbs 13 reminds us that the righteous eat from the fruit of their lips, but the unfaithful feed on violence. This means that what we say has the power to generate life or death, peace or conflict, healing or wounding. Many times we underestimate the impact of our speech, forgetting that every word can open or close doors. The mouth is not just an instrument of communication, but of construction. He who speaks with wisdom builds. He who speaks recklessly destroys. The righteous find nourishment in their words because they produce truth, hope, and guidance. The unfaithful, however, draw violence, for from their mouths come deceit, slander, and perversity. Here lies a profound spiritual warning. The mouth reveals the state of the heart. There is no neutral word. It always carries an essence, either life or death. What you say reveals who you are. What you confess about yourself and others shapes the atmosphere around you. It is no wonder that Jesus declared, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." This unbreakable link between the inner and the outer is inescapable. If the heart is righteous, the mouth reflects life. If corrupted, it spreads poison. That is why the discipline of guarding the lips is essential. Words spoken in the heat of emotion can leave eternal marks. How many families have been destroyed by thoughtless words? How many opportunities lost by unkept promises? The power of the mouth cannot be ignored. Another crucial point is that the mouth also defines the spiritual environment around us. Words of faith open paths in the unseen. Words of unbelief close doors. A heart that confesses promises creates a cycle of hope. A heart that murmurs establishes a cycle of defeat. This means that your mouth is like a key. It opens or closes destinies, and often this key is used unconsciously. Proverbs invites us to use the mouth with intention, never carelessly. The righteous eat the fruit of their lips because they find energy, encouragement, and strength in what they proclaim. It is like someone who plants vegetables in a garden and then eats from them. The unfaithful, however, speaking violence, end up being devoured by the very poison they release. The spiritual law is clear: what you sow with your mouth, you will reap in your life. Words of blessing return as blessings. Words of cursing return as thorns. If we truly understood the weight of what we say, perhaps we would speak less and listen more. That is why James teaches that the tongue is small, yet it sets a whole forest on fire. How many wars began with a poorly placed word? How many reconciliations were born from a humble word of forgiveness? The mouth is an instrument of war or peace, depending on how we choose to use it. This teaching in Proverbs 13 leads us to a daily practice, guarding the lips. It is not about speaking little, but about speaking with purpose. Every phrase should carry intention, life, wisdom, and edification. By understanding this, you turn your mouth into a fountain of hope, not a pit of destruction. That is the difference between the righteous and the unfaithful. One builds with words, the other tears down with them. And you, what fruit has been leaving your mouth? Proverbs 13 declares, "He who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips comes to ruin." This verse is a direct warning about the power of silence and self-control. The mouth, when used without restraint, can endanger not only relationships but also a person's spiritual destiny. Guarding the lips is more than speaking less. It is speaking rightly, at the right time, and with the right motivation. Those who discipline their speech protect their very lives from unnecessary falls. Words, once released, can never be retrieved. A thoughtless phrase may cause scars that even years cannot erase. That is why the wise prefer to think before speaking, while the fool speaks first and regrets later. Guarding the mouth is like building a wall around the soul, shielding it from accusations, quarrels, and misunderstandings. Many who fell into disgrace were not victims of great enemies, but of cursed words that came from their own lips. It is interesting that the biblical text associates guarding the mouth with preserving the soul. This means there is a spiritual connection between what we say and the health of our inner being. Impure words contaminate the mind, while words of wisdom strengthen it. Thus, the discipline of speech is not merely social, but deeply spiritual. Every word spoken can either fortify or weaken the soul. For this reason, the righteous are called to be constantly vigilant over their lips. Guarding the mouth is also an act of practical wisdom. In workplaces, relationships, or leadership, those who talk too much often expose weaknesses and open doors to enemies. But those who speak prudently gain respect and trust. Strategic silence, when used wisely, can be more powerful than a long speech. It preserves dignity, reputation, and life itself. Knowing when to be quiet is often the greatest proof of wisdom. It is not about being silent and timid, but about being conscious that words carry eternal weight. Jesus said we will give account for every idle word we speak. This shows that guarding the mouth is not only a good practice, but a divine requirement. By watching our lips, we are not only protecting ourselves, but also honoring the one who gave us a voice. The tongue can be a fountain of blessing or a weapon of cursing, and it is up to us to decide how to use it. Many family and social conflicts could be avoided if we mastered the art of guarding the mouth. How many marital arguments were born from words spoken in the heat of anger? How many friendships were destroyed by gossip uttered without thought? The text of Proverbs is an urgent call to become masters of verbal discipline. Speaking less and listening more is the key to living with wisdom. Guarding the mouth is guarding life, because life is guided by words. Those who master their lips gain peace, while those who unleash them without filter attract ruin. This truth remains across times, cultures, and contexts. The invitation of Proverbs 13 is clear. Be vigilant in your speech, because your soul depends on it. He who knows how to use the tongue as an instrument of blessing lives securely. He who uses it as a weapon digs his own destruction. Proverbs 13 teaches that the soul of the sluggard desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. This contrast reveals the difference between dreaming and acting. The lazy man dreams big, but never leaves the realm of imagination, while the diligent turns effort into achievement. The text does not condemn desire itself, but the absence of action that accompanies it. Wishing without working is illusion. Working with discipline is the path to realization. Laziness is the enemy of prosperity because it makes someone live on intentions without ever reaping results. The sluggard lives in a cycle of frustration. He wishes, he waits, he dreams, but he never plants. The diligent, however, understands that the harvest depends on sowing and that nothing flourishes without effort. The difference between them is not in what they want, but in what they do. One is satisfied with empty wishes, the other builds with the sweat of his hands. This truth is universal and practical. You cannot desire health without discipline in habits, nor desire wealth without consistent work, nor desire wisdom without reading and learning. Desire must be watered with action. The lazy man lives in promises to himself, while the diligent fulfills what he promised with his own hands. It is like the difference between dry land and a cultivated field. Both exist, but only one produces fruit. The biblical text says that the soul of the diligent is made rich, symbolizing abundance and satisfaction. This shows that effort never returns void. Even if the harvest does not come immediately, it always comes at the right time. The soul of the lazy, however, remains hungry, never having enough to be satisfied. Daily effort is the key that transforms the invisible into the visible. Desire into achievement. God honors persistent work. This proverb also teaches us about spirituality. Many desire a close walk with God, but do not invest time in prayer, reading, and spiritual discipline. They desire miracles, but do not sow faith. The diligent, by contrast, builds his spirituality with constancy. The result is a soul strengthened, full, and mature. Just as in physical work, spiritual diligence produces inner abundance. It is important to remember that diligence does not mean only working hard, but working with purpose. It is possible to be busy and unproductive at the same time. The diligent do not waste energy on vain things, but direct their strength toward what produces real fruit. He knows that every effort is a seed and plants wisely to reap at the right time. The sluggard, however, is scattered, starts and does not finish, dreams but does not act. In the end, the lazy collect frustrations and the diligent collects victories. The text calls us to reflect. Are we merely wishing, or are we acting? Desire without action is illusion. Diligence without desire is slavery. The balance lies in both desiring and acting, dreaming and working, hoping and planting. This is the secret of those who prosper, aligning the heart with effort. The reward of diligence is abundance, peace, and soul satisfaction. Proverbs 13 declares, "The righteous hate lying, but the wicked bring shame and disgrace." Here, Scripture not only highlights truth as a value, but reveals that love for righteousness is born out of hatred for deceit. The righteous not only prefer truth, they hate lies. This difference in posture is powerful. It is not enough to like truth. It is necessary to reject falsehood in all its forms. What you tolerate will eventually become part of you. Lies, even when they seem small, open cracks that lead to destruction. They ruin reputations, corrode relationships, and wound the very soul of the one who practices them. The wicked grow accustomed to living behind disguises until shame becomes inevitable. Sooner or later, truth emerges and exposes what was hidden. The righteous, on the other hand, find security in living transparently because they have nothing to fear. Where there is truth, there is freedom. Hatred of lies also reveals the character of the righteous. They do not conform to deceit, even when it might benefit them. They would rather lose momentarily than win through falsehood. This posture attracts the favor of God and builds trust among men. The wicked, however, build their paths on lies, but live enslaved by the fear of being discovered. It is a cycle of bondage disguised as advantage. This verse also shows us how truth is liberating in every sphere. At home, it sustains trust between husband and wife. In business, it ensures credibility in a person's word. In faith, it strengthens intimacy with God, for He Himself is truth. No relationship can be solid without transparency as its foundation. The righteous love truth because it is a secure foundation, while lies are shifting sands that swallow everything built upon them. The shame covering the wicked does not come only from public exposure, but from internal decay. Those who live by deceit lose the shine in their eyes. Their conscience weighs on them, and peace becomes impossible. The righteous, however, no matter how simple their life, walk with head held high because they know they have nothing to hide. This is the great victory of truth. It produces rest for the soul. It is interesting to see that lying is not just a moral issue, but a spiritual one. Jesus said that the devil is the father of lies, while he himself is the way, the truth, and the life. This means that every time we choose lies, we align ourselves with darkness, but every time we choose truth, we align ourselves with God. The righteous, therefore, not only speak truth but love it, because it draws them closer to the Creator. In the end, the lesson is clear. Righteousness and truth walk together, while lies and shame unite in ruin. To live in truth is to choose light, integrity, and trust. The wicked may laugh today, but tomorrow they will be covered in disgrace. The righteous may lose now, but they will reap honor at the right time. The question remains, in your life, which non-negotiable value have you chosen? The truth that sets free or the lie that enslaves? Imagine a fortress built in the middle of an open field. Those inside enjoy safety, while those outside are exposed to every danger. So it is with righteousness in a person's life, a shield that guards the upright from falls and destruction. Proverbs 13 shows us that integrity functions as spiritual, emotional, and even physical armor against the traps of evil. It is not about living without problems, but about having divine protection in the midst of storms. Righteousness acts as an invisible wall that shields those who walk in truth. When someone chooses to walk the path of integrity, they automatically move away from unnecessary risks. The thief lives on the run, the corrupt lives in hiding, but the righteous walk in peace. Uprightness eliminates the weight of fear, because those who owe nothing have nothing to fear. This is the protection righteousness offers: freedom to live without invisible chains. Wickedness, however, acts like a snare set by the evildoer himself. He digs a pit for others, but is the first to fall into it. The text reveals that wickedness not only exposes, but consumes the wrongdoer. What seems like cleverness turns into condemnation. While the righteous are guarded by their integrity, the wicked destroy themselves by their crooked choices. Life always reflects what is sown. This protection of righteousness is also evident in relationships. People of character attract trust, while those with evil intentions attract suspicion. The righteous always find allies, open doors, and respect. The wicked, however, are surrounded by enemies, doubts, and isolation. What protects is not cunning, but the truth carried in the heart. Righteousness builds sincere friendships, while wickedness destroys even blood ties. Moreover, righteousness protects spiritually. The Bible affirms that the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. This supernatural care is a guarantee for those who walk uprightly. Wickedness may seem to prosper for a time, but sooner or later it exacts a heavy price. The righteous may face fierce winds, but remain standing because their foundation is solid. Integrity is armor that cannot be broken. To live under the protection of righteousness does not mean being exempt from difficulties, but having safety even in the midst of chaos. It is like walking across a battlefield with an impenetrable shield. Evil may try, threaten, and attack, but it finds no breach. Those guarded by integrity always encounter unexpected deliverance. The wicked, however, live exposed because they have no one to turn to when their own wickedness catches up with them. In the end, Proverbs 13 shows us that true security does not come from high walls or accumulated wealth, but from a righteous heart. Integrity is the true fortress of life. Evil may seem advantageous for a moment, but becomes a deadly snare. Righteousness, on the other hand, produces peace, protection, and rest. The great choice is this: will you walk unprotected, relying on doubtful shortcuts, or live under the unshakable shield of righteousness? Not everything is what it seems. Proverbs 13 declares, "There is one who makes himself rich, yet has nothing, and one who makes himself poor, yet has great riches." This verse breaks paradigms, showing that appearances deceive. Many cover themselves with titles, possessions, and ostentation, but are inwardly empty. Others, though materially simple, carry within themselves eternal values and invisible treasures. The text reveals that true wealth is not in the pocket, but in the heart. This lesson is profoundly relevant today. We live in an age where status is confused with prosperity. Social media displays an edited life, but the Bible reveals that wealth of facade is fragility. What is shown to others does not always correspond to what one truly possesses. The false rich man is a slave to appearances. The truly rich is free to live authentically. What matters is not what you show, but what you sustain. False wealth generates imprisonment because those who live by appearances must maintain masks. The fear of being discovered accompanies every step. True wealth, however, is a source of peace because it does not depend on the approval of others. A simple life, full of love, wisdom, and faith, is more precious than vaults overflowing with gold. An upright heart sleeps peacefully, while a divided heart finds no rest. This contrast also reveals the importance of spiritual values. Those who make themselves poor before men are often rich before God. The Apostle Paul wrote, "As having nothing, yet possessing all things." This is the essence of true prosperity, being satisfied in what is eternal. Poverty is not the lack of possessions, but the lack of purpose. Wealth is not the excess of money, but the abundance of life. False wealth can be lost in an instant. Financial crises, betrayals, bankruptcies, or even death reveal the fragility of relying only on earthly goods. True wealth, however, remains because it is rooted in principles and values that do not corrode. Faith, wisdom, integrity, and love are currencies that never devalue. They are invisible treasures, but eternal. it is important to note that the biblical text does not condemn having possessions, but warns against the illusion of relying solely on them. Those who are materially rich but spiritually poor live in constant lack. Those who have little materially but much spiritually overflow with fullness. The true measure is not in what you have, but in who you are before God and men. In the end, Proverbs 13 reminds us that wealth and poverty are deeper concepts than we imagine. One may boast, yet possess nothing. Another may hide in simplicity and own great treasures. The question is, where is your true wealth? In possessions that can be lost or in values that will remain? The chapter invites us to reevaluate what we call prosperity and to pursue what can never be taken away. Picture a ransom paid to rescue someone in danger. Proverbs 13 states, "The ransom of a man's life is his riches, but the poor does not." Hear rebuke. This verse presents a fascinating contrast. Wealth can become a shield in times of crisis, but it can also expose one to risk. The poor, having nothing to offer, often pass unnoticed. The rich, however, are sometimes forced to use their resources to buy protection or deliverance. Here lies a great lesson about security. Many trust in riches as their fortress, but the text shows that they can also attract danger. Those who possess much are often the target of envy, extortion, or blackmail. The life of those who rely solely on money is surrounded by threats. On the other hand, the poor, without great possessions, often pass by unnoticed in situations where the rich would be exposed. This contrast reveals something profound. What you call security may become your greatest vulnerability. Money can buy deliverance, but it cannot buy peace. It can pay for ransoms, but it cannot prevent dangers from repeating. The poor, though limited in resources, possess a type of freedom unknown to the rich. Their simple life is also protection from risks that wealth attracts. But the message goes beyond material aspects. There is a ransom that no human wealth can pay, the ransom of the soul. Jesus declared that it is useless to gain the whole world and yet lose one's soul. Here, Proverbs points to a greater truth. Possessions may save from momentary danger, but only righteousness and faith can guarantee eternal salvation. Material wealth has limits, but spirituality is limitless. The text also teaches us about contentment. Many are tormented, trying to accumulate more wealth to feel secure, yet they become slaves to the fear of loss. The poor, less attached, learn to live with what they have and find peace in their simplicity. This shows that true safety does not come from accumulated possessions, but from trust in God. He is the true redeemer of life. There is also a reflection here about purpose. If wealth is used only for ostentation, it becomes a burden. If it is used as an instrument of blessing, it becomes protection. The generous life demonstrates that riches can indeed serve as a ransom, not just for oneself, but also for others. Sharing what one has can save lives and open paths that selfishness never would. In the end, Proverbs 13 makes us consider, where is the trust of our hearts? In riches that can pay temporary ransoms, or in God who has already paid the eternal price? Wealth may save from passing threats, but only faith guarantees true life. The poor may not fear because they are not a target. The righteous do not fear because they know their life is in the Lord's hands. This is the greatest ransom one can have. A single ray of light is able to pierce the densest darkness. Proverbs 13 says, "The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked shall be put out." Here we see a powerful contrast. The light of the righteous is permanent, while that of the wicked is fleeting. Righteousness generates a brightness that cannot be hidden, but evil sustains only a fragile and unstable flame. The glow of integrity endures. The flame of perversity quickly fades. The light of the righteous does not depend on external circumstances. Because it comes from within. It is the reflection of a heart aligned with truth and with God. Just as the sun shines without effort, the righteous radiate without forcing it. Their life is testimony. Their actions are beacons for those around them. The lamp of the wicked, however, is like a candle in the wind. It may shine for a moment, but it is always about to be extinguished. This verse also points to the final destiny of each path. The righteous walk toward eternity, where their light will grow ever brighter. The wicked, however, walk into darkness, where their lamp will be extinguished forever. It is not only about this life, but about the life to come. Light is a symbol of hope, salvation, and direction. Darkness of perdition, despair, and the absence of God. Each choice is a step toward brightness or shadow. Beyond the spiritual meaning, there is also a practical principle. People of integrity bring light into environments. They bring peace, security, and inspiration wherever they go. The wicked, however, bring instability, distrust, and fear. The light of the righteous attracts confidence. The darkness of the wicked pushes people away. This shows that righteousness not only blesses the individual, but influences the entire community. The glow of one righteous person can illuminate many lives. Another important point is that light cannot be imitated for long. The wicked may try to appear good, but sooner or later their lamp goes out. True character always comes to the surface. The light of the righteous is authentic because it comes from their essence. The lamp of the wicked is artificial because it depends on disguise. The difference between them is revealed over time. What is true endures. What is false cannot survive. This passage also reminds us that light is a guide. The righteous illuminate not only their own path, but also the way for others. They are like a torch in the night, helping those still walking in the dark. The wicked, on the other hand, not only get lost themselves, but may also drag others into darkness. One's brightness, or lack of it, affects not just the individual, but also the generation watching them. In the end, Proverbs 13 shows that living in the light is more than a moral choice. It is a matter of destiny. The righteous shine because they carry within themselves the flame of truth. The wicked are extinguished because their life has no roots in integrity. Light is eternal, darkness is temporary. The question that echoes is this: is your life lighting the way for others, or is it extinguishing your own flame? It only takes a spark to ignite an entire forest. And so it is with pride, small at first but devastating in its effects. Proverbs 13 teaches, "By pride comes nothing but strife, but with the well-advised is wisdom." This shows that pride is not just a character flaw, but an open door to constant conflict. The one who exalts himself inevitably causes division because he refuses correction and dialogue. Pride isolates, while humility builds bridges. The proud see the world through themselves. Their opinion becomes law, their view the only valid one, and any contradiction feels like an offense. Such an attitude creates arguments, separations, and wars. In contrast, the one who seeks counsel shows humility, recognizing that he does not know everything. Wisdom is born from listening, while strife is born from pride. The humble heart builds peace, the arrogant heart builds walls. The text shows us that the source of many conflicts is not out there, but inside us. How many family quarrels, church divisions, or business disputes have started because of wounded pride? Pride is like invisible fuel, feeding the flames of discord. Humility, on the other hand, is like water that extinguishes the fire, bringing calm and restoration. For this reason, counsel is more valuable than imposition. Seeking counsel does not diminish a person's authority, it strengthens it. The wise understand that everyone carries a piece of the truth and that learning from others is an act of greatness. The proud, by refusing to listen, become prisoners of their own limited vision. The humble, by opening themselves to counsel, expand horizons and find more effective solutions. This is the difference between living in war or in peace. In practice, this principle is seen everywhere. In homes, pride hardens hearts and prevents reconciliation. In business, it leads to rash decisions and bankruptcy. In nations, it leads to unnecessary wars. Pride has a high cost, and coexistence is always the one that pays. Humility, on the other hand, produces harmony, growth, and trust. It is not weakness, but controlled strength. There is also here a spiritual lesson. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Pride attracts divine resistance, while humility attracts favor. This shows that pride not only produces strife among men, but also distances us from the Creator himself. Humility is the key that opens heaven's doors, while pride shuts them. To walk in submission is to choose wisdom and protection. In Proverbs 13 reminds us that pride and strife walk together, just as humility and wisdom do. Whoever chooses exaltation will reap division. Whoever chooses counsel will reap peace. The invitation of the text is clear. Step down from the pedestal, open your ears, and allow the wisdom of others to add to your own. True greatness lies not in imposing yourself, but in learning. And that attitude generates not only harmony, but also victory. Just as sand slips quickly through the hands, so are riches acquired hastily. Proverbs 13 declares, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." The text shows that true prosperity does not come from hurry or deceitful cunning, but from constancy and patience. What is built without a solid foundation does not last, but what is laid brick by brick becomes unshakable. Human beings are often seduced by immediacy. They want quick results, instant gains, and shortcuts to avoid effort. Yet the Bible reveals that this path is illusory. Riches accumulated in haste are often lost as quickly as they came. It is like building a castle on sand, beautiful at first glance, but unable to withstand the waves. True growth is slow but secure. This principle applies not only to finances, but to every area of life. Solid relationships are not built overnight, but over years of dedication. Deep knowledge is not born from a rushed reading, but from continuous study. Authentic spirituality is not conquered in isolated moments, but in the constancy of faith. Everything lasting demands patience, discipline, and perseverance. Wealth gathered little by little is like a tree that grows slowly but becomes robust and gives shade for generations. Every act of discipline is like watering that tree. Those who plant today reap tomorrow. Those who persist succeed. Those who persevere prosper. Haste may generate the feeling of victory, but only constancy ensures enduring fruit. The text invites us to value the process, not just the result. It is interesting that quick wealth often comes with risks. Scams, corruption, dishonest shortcuts, and rash decisions may bring immediate profit, but also bring shame and ruin. Illicit gain always charges a higher price in the future. Honest gain, even if slow, brings peace to the soul. The difference is not only in what one has, but in how it was obtained. This proverb also teaches us to trust God's timing. Many times we desire things to happen immediately, but He leads us through gradual processes. Delay is not failure. It is training. Slow growth strengthens roots to withstand storms. Thus, patience becomes part of the purpose. True wealth is in learning to wait, work, and trust. In the end, Proverbs 13 makes it clear that there are two kinds of wealth: the temporary, born of haste, and the lasting, born of constancy. One is easily lost. The other endures for generations. The invitation is simple yet profound. Do not be seduced by the haste of having, but choose the discipline of building. Whoever plants with patience reaps abundance. Whoever seeks shortcuts reaps emptiness. Which will you choose? A quick flash or a permanent light? Who has never felt the weight of waiting? Proverbs 13 declares, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life." This truth strikes directly at the human soul because we all carry expectations. When what we long for delays, the soul grows weary, the spirit weakens, and the heart feels heavy. But when the dream finally comes true, it is like a breath of life, bringing strength and renewal. Hope is an invisible engine that keeps us moving forward. Without it, the heart loses energy. The text shows that constant delay can produce deep frustration. How many give up halfway because they do not see immediate results? The problem is not waiting, but not knowing how to deal with the time of waiting. Delay can be a test, training, or divine protection, but to the anxious heart, it feels like abandonment. The contrast presented here is striking. The fulfilled desire is compared to a tree of life. Trees give shade, fruit, and stability. So too is the realization of a dream. It brings rest, nourishes the soul, and strengthens faith. Hope fulfilled is a reminder that waiting was worthwhile. It is like an oasis in the desert that revives the weary traveler and gives him strength to continue. This proverb also teaches that the time of waiting reveals how much we trust in God. When something delays, doubts arise. Will it happen? Did I make a mistake? Has God forgotten me? But the righteous understand that delay does not mean denial. Many times, desire tarries because the heart is not yet ready to receive it. God does not work with delays, but with purposes. It is essential to learn how to turn waiting time into growth time. While the promise has not arrived, the heart can be strengthened, faith matured, and character refined. Waiting hurts, but it also teaches. Those who learn to wait without giving up experience a transformation that goes beyond the final achievement. The true victory is not only in receiving, but in being shaped during the process. As we walked through Proverbs 13, we saw that every verse is a decision key that opens or closes doors to the future. These are not merely poetic words, but eternal principles shaping character, relationships, and destiny. The chapter showed us that the righteous find life in their choices, while the wicked walk toward ruin. Each contrast was designed to remind us that there is no neutrality. Either we walk in light or remain in darkness. The wisdom of this chapter teaches us that it is not enough to desire. We must act. It is not enough to speak. We must guard our lips. It is not enough to have wealth. We must learn to use it with justice. It is not enough to hear the word. We must obey it. This combination of principles transforms life into a solid construction, built not on sand, but on rock. The secret of stability is not in external circumstances, but in internal choices. We also learned that life is made of processes. Wealth gathered, little by little increases. Hope that tarries teaches patience. Faithfulness gains favor. In every situation, God shows us that the safest road is not the fastest, but the most upright. Immediacy generates illusions, but constancy generates fruit. The journey of the righteous may be slow, but shines brighter. The path of the wicked may be quick, but ends in darkness. This chapter is a warning against laziness, lies, pride, and unfaithfulness. All these choices open space for unnecessary pain, but it is also an invitation to diligence, truth, humility, and loyalty, virtues that attract peace, protection, and favor. The contrast is clear. Righteousness is a shield, wickedness is a snare. What seems small today will one day become the harvest of a lifetime. Proverbs 13 also reminds us that the Word of God is an indispensable compass. Those who despise it perish. Those who value it find life. The teaching of the wise is a fountain of protection, and each piece of counsel works like a signpost that prevents falls. The Bible was not written to be admired from a distance, but to be applied daily. The difference between the righteous and the wicked lies in the value they give to the divine voice. In the end, we discovered that the light of the righteous never goes out. It shines intensely, illuminating not only their path, but also the path of others. Faithfulness opens doors, hope brings life, diligence produces abundance. The righteous, even in simplicity, are rich. The wicked, even in display, are poor. True, wealth is not in what you have, but in who you are. This is the essence of the chapter, living with purpose and integrity. Now the decision is yours. You can hear these words and walk away as if nothing happened, or you can apply them and transform your life. Proverbs 13 is more than an ancient text. It is a survival manual for the present. Each principle is an invitation to leave mediocrity behind and enter into the fullness of life. The final question is this: are you willing to choose the path of wisdom today? If so, get ready, because your story will never be the same.